This episode of our Chargezilla series is called Play, and that's because it's all about off-road enjoyment and off-road fun. I'm here at Tumbleweed Ranch. I have our E100, used to be F100 truck behind me. And on this episode, I'm gonna run it through several obstacles here off-road at Andre's Pit. And also, the guys from Fox Shocks are gonna be here at the ranch, and they're gonna help me learn about the shocks, the 2.5-inch Fox shocks all the way around on this truck. And we're gonna tune the shocks and get the truck riding a little bit more civilized, and let's see how it works off-road. So let's review what the truck is really quick, and then let's get going. So tell me about what's been going on with this truck.
We planned on taking the body and the bed off. All right, down. You got it. Yep, sure got it this time. It didn't work. Check that out. Well, we've got the body off. A little more work than we anticipated with this steering shaft not coming out of the gearbox, so that kind of threw us for a loop.
Yeah, I see it's hanging down too low.
So this is going to be a mid-engine truck.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If you've been watching the series, you know the genesis of this truck. This is a 1965 Ford F100, but it's actually a combination of a lot of different pieces and chassis. It has a heavy-duty F250 chassis, divorce transfer case, also known as Highboy, for true off-road capability. It's also on 35s, so it's got a bit of a lift, and it used to have a straight six dump truck F550 engine. Now, we also showed you how we converted the truck completely to all-electric powertrain with Tesla batteries and Hyper 9 electric motors, two of them. And on this episode, it's all about off-roading, right? And having a bit of fun. So I'm gonna start with the Halls course here at Andre's Pit. So let me show you that now. Okay, so first up is the Halls course, which is meant to test kind of articulation. I'm so fortunate I have a pit named after me. And there's also logs and rocks and volcano and trenches. But here's the thing about off-roading an electric vehicle. You kind of have this instant torque that kind of you can modulate. So let me see if I can climb this. Ooh, not a lot of pedal application, but there it goes, just pulls through. And I don't think I spun a single tire. Yes. All right, so the Halls was an easy peasy obstacle for this truck, as you saw. But now let's meet the guys from Fox and see exactly what that's going to be about, because we need to drive it around, get a baseline for the suspension, because this truck also has the older leaf springs. Then they're gonna tune, they're gonna do some magic to it that I'll show you next, and then hopefully it will ride better. So let's kick it off. Let's go to the Fox guys now. Blake, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming out here and helping us with the truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me walk you around it. Let me pop the hood first. Bam! What do you think?
Not what you'd expect to see.
This is a Tesla battery, so there's 10 Tesla modules in here. The batteries are water cooled. That's why there's a water circuit, coolant circuit basically here under the hood. And the radiator, there's a small tiny radiator right here underneath the cross member. The ignition is on the left. So you basically turn it once and it basically skips accessory, so to speak, and goes to full on. So here's a little window into what's going on. There's two motors, they're in serial. Connected to each other is a little bit of reduction box, 2-to-1 basically. And then solid axles, front and rear, and Fox shocks. And when you guys were talking to us, you asked for the weight, right? Weight distribution. Hopefully, I mean, we provided you with as much information as possible.
Yeah. We use the weight distribution of the truck to try to determine spring rates and ride frequencies to try to get it to feel. And then we typically have a target vehicle that we want it to feel like, and we can use those ride frequency values to try to determine spring rate. We're a little limited here because the springs are set.
Yeah.
But it's still good to know all that information when you go to tune the damper to try to get the damper to match that ride frequency.
Okay, let's give it a base drive.
Okay.
And you tell me if it's a Raptor or not. Okay?
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, a little nervous on the throttle because you don't know
how sensitive it is.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect.
So it's tuned to be low power initially, and over 20 miles an hour it'll give you more.
Okay.
So it's tuned for like kind of easy going. It's not a racing truck basically.
The steering's not bad either. I thought it was gonna be way harder with.
Oh, were you working out yesterday?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, so let's just gently go down this hill.
Okay.
By the way, if you feather the throttle, accelerator pedal, and let go of it slowly, you'll get a little bit more regen, and you can feel that.
Yeah, definitely feel that.
And then we'll just run and see that offshoot. We're gonna go left.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's where the regen's nice coming downhill.
Yeah.
This is a trip.
This is a 1965. So it's pretty silent, mostly. You hear rocks, you hear a little bit of a window rattle.
Yeah. Honestly, less rattle than I was expecting in a 65.
Yeah. And give it some momentum so it can climb. Test or no?
It's pretty good. I think the prairie dog section is definitely spring, which there's only so much we can do with that.
Okay.
But I think there's room for some improvement, but definitely way smoother than I thought for a 65.
Yeah, because well, I mean, this is a hollow cab. I mean, there is no headliner. I mean, we're speaking relatively quietly.
Yeah.
Yes, the doors have some rattle. So you're saying the prairie dog area, that's all spring, right?
Yeah, the low vehicle speed stuff, the damper isn't doing very much. You can add a nose where the damper will help with like that body motion stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that transmissibility where the whole chassis is moving is mainly spring.
Yeah, and these are old springs.
Yeah.
So now high speed running, and by high speed I mean like 40 or 50. That's what I mean.
Yeah, the goal is what it will typically be used for.
Yeah. This is the use case. It's a ranch vehicle, right, for whoever buys it. Maybe their property vehicle, and then they want to go into town, show it off at the show, right? They want to go cruise. This is what this truck is for.
Exactly.
So we're on a gravel road, dirt road, and then paved, right?
Yep. Yeah, initial impressions on the driveway rough stuff exceeds my expectations for 65.
Okay,
so
well, you set your expectation at the level, right?
I set it at a 1965 Ford. That's where my expectation is.
Okay. What kind of vehicles have you worked on? Anything? Everything?
Pretty much everything. I mainly do the side-by-side world, so Polaris and BRP and Kawasaki, those. But I've also tuned with Ford and Toyota and some of the bigger race vehicles, stuff like that. So I've done a lot of things.
Kind of the whole gamut.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see how it does a dirt country road.
Yeah.
And you can open it up a little bit, see how much juice we got.
definitely, my mind has to get used to this sort of throttle. I'm worried it's going to be touchy, but it's so smooth.
And now the rocks are shooting up.
You hear every single one. Yeah, with those big tires too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So once again, the regen is there.
Yeah.
So you're getting a little bit of regen.
I don't even need to use the brake pretty much. Now, I have some old vehicles and they rattle more than this.
So is the shock helping us right now? There's a little chatter.
I think, yeah, with the chatter, it helps control wheel shake, that low speed damping and that initial impact,
Okay.
that's dampering. And you can tune the damper to try to get it more comfortable or more control or more capacity. So that's kind of what we're trying to figure out right now is
Okay.
where it's at.
There wasn't a huge event there.
No, I think going this way when we drop off of it,
Yeah, bam.
we'll get the whole chassis to move and we'll be able to see how the balance is front to rear.
Okay. Well, let's use one of these side roads to turn around.
Okay.
Here comes that drop, a little bit of a drop.
Okay. So yeah, it kind of feels like it moved a little bit more in the rear.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of wheel shake in the rear, kind of lost a little bit of traction.
Yeah.
That's first impressions.
Yes. So what does that mean? I mean, you could kind of try to tune for that?
Yeah, so there's two things we can do. We could attack the front, try to make it softer to match the rear, or if we like the capacity of the front, we can make the rear stiffer to try to match the front. So I think because it's got those heavy springs for being loaded, I think we probably want to go on and because it's probably going to be used for daily driving out on roads, I think we probably want to go the softer route, so maybe take the fronts off and make them a little softer to match the rear.
Okay. Hey Blake, can I come in?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's Jim and you working. Is this your mobile office?
Pretty much. Got AC for the desert. It's not bad. Home away from home.
Dual AC units.
Oh yeah, it's needed when you're out in Baja.
Three AC units. So can you tell me about the shocks we're using? These are 2.5s, right?
Yeah, correct. These are 2.5 monotube. So Fox has internal bypass and the monotube style shocks. This is our monotube shock, and it has our DSC. So this is a dual compression adjuster. The orange knob is its low speed compression adjust, and then the bigger gray knob is for high speed compression.
Okay. It's a pretty beefy shock, but it's also that doesn't weigh a lot.
No, it's all aluminum, so nice lightweight. But then, yeah, like you said, it can stand up to these big trucks.
Okay. So, and you were able to take these off without actually jacking up the truck.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, because the truck has leaf springs and not a coil carrier or a coilover shock.
Yeah.
We're able to take the weight of the truck's held up by the leaf springs, so we're able to take the shock off.
Let me show you how it handles the logs, which is about traction and also suspension, of course. The holes was easy. Let me try logs next. Logs is more about traction and it might be a little bit more bouncy. So let me try that now. Okay, I'm lining up for logs. I'm gonna keep momentum going. I've got 35s. Oh yes! That was a lot of torque. Woohoo! Wowzers! Our friend David has built, of course, all of these courses, and he did a really good job with the logs because I actually spun my rear tires, as you saw there, and I almost launched. I thought I was going to launch this log behind me, but it stayed put, so thank you, David. But now let's go back to Fox, guys, Blake and team, because we're gonna also attach data acquisition sensors, yes, to this old truck. We're gonna take it for a drive, get some data from it, and see if the work that the Fox guys were doing actually can be also monitored in a computer. I know, you're probably asking right now, how much does all of this cost, Andre? This is really great suspension and really great electric components. Well, let me show you right now. I'm at ridefox.com with the suspension systems, and I love this website because you could select the year of your vehicle. For example, well, they don't have a 1965 Ford, but as you saw, you can actually get a hold of a distributor or Fox themselves and tell them kind of the type of vehicle you have. In this case, I'm going to select 2002 Ford F-350 Super Duty Crew just for the purposes of this, of showing you this. And then you see your shock options, anything from Performance Series 2.0s to Factory Race Series 2.5s with adjustments like you see on our Chargezilla truck. And of course, pricing varies from about $300, $309 to about $1,449, depending on the types of shocks. And of course, they have live adjustable live valve shocks and something really, really expensive, really fancy for many vehicles. I can show you right now, right there, position all. And the pricing, of course, varies depending on the type of shock. Like you see here, the Factory Race Series. It can be super expensive or actually somewhat affordable. And then what about the electric components? Let's check it out. Here I am on Legacy EV website, and you could go by kits or you can go by components at the top menu, and you can select different battery types, battery modules, motor systems. I selected the motor already, and then I'll show you the build sheet for Chargezilla truck itself. So for example, the Hyper 9 motor here is listed at $5,150, $5,150. But here's just some of the build sheet. They call them performance kits. So when you call Legacy EV, you'll be able to tell them what vehicle you're working on and then what performance are you expecting from that vehicle. And based on that, you could select something affordable, maybe around $20,000 in components versus something insanely crazy, $50, $60, or $70 or $1,000 or above, just depending on the type of project you're working on, the type of performance you're expecting. We were looking at about 339 horsepower, 600 pound-feet of torque, about 52 kilowatt hours usable battery. And so here's the specs. We're using two Hyper 9 motors in this case. And by the way, each build is going to be very unique and very different. And you can see there's a lot of components. So if you were doing this by yourself without Legacy EV, which you can do, just look at how many different things you would have to select and the different manufacturers you would have to talk to. Also, if you want to add air conditioning, Legacy EV can help you there, $1,300 for air conditioner. But the highest price, of course, is the battery. This is the latest pricing I have from just last week, $1,800 per module or $27,000 for batteries. These are repurposed Tesla Model S, in this case, modules. So it just depends on your budget, depends on your needs, depends on your charging system that you want. For example, here's this 6 kilowatt charger, $1,685, and your accessories. So the project, the Chargezilla project, was close to $45,000, $46,000, like you can see here, but you could also add other accessories, like the torque box with park lock that we had. Was also part of this at about $4,200. So it just depends on your budget. Now back to the show.
I think when you guys moved the battery to the rear and shifted that weight distribution more 50-50, we lost the front bias that the truck came with when it was internal combustion. So now we have to go back and adjust the dampers accordingly.
And you're going to do it internally.
Correct. Yeah.
But the adjustment will still be there.
Correct. Yeah. We want. Typically, when we're tuning, we try to do all of our adjustments internally and keep the adjusters in the middle setting. So then for the end user, they can go and have more compression if they wanted or less compression. They're in the middle of that adjustment range.
And now I'm with Jim.
Yep.
Jim, you're the truck driver, you're the logistics man, you are the
Shock guy when I get
shock
here.
guy,
Yeah.
everything. So can you show me the trailer briefly?
It's a 3-phase generator.
Pretty beefy one.
Beefy, very beefy.
Okay.
Fuel gauge,
Diesel power.
diesel power. Yeah, so that'll be the valving area where you'll get those shims and stuff ready. This is a tear down area. This is the dyno,
Shock dyno.
magnetic one. Yes, shock. It's not a crank dyno. Okay, this is a load cell.
Okay.
So you have a shock in here, and the load cell, when this pushes up, you're pushing against this. It's making,
So it's basically
Markings.
cycling the shock.
yes.
Okay.
So when it's pushing up, you're pushing against this. When this is coming down, you're pulling against the load cell. So when it gets done doing its magic on the computer, will show you there's a 0 line, and you'll have compression or rebound, and it'll show you the max forces and whatever speed. If you got it set up for 60 inches per second or 10 inches per second, it'll show you a graph of what that shock is doing.
Well, I've seen these in big giant warehouses, like headquarters, but you have a mobile, basically a mobile dyno, so to speak.
Yes, yeah, this one here happens to be a CTW, and that's why we have the big generator. This is a 3-phase dyno, and big bucks.
Okay.
Big bucks.
And then you have a drill.
Then we have our drill press, and this thing spins 90 degrees, and we do our inner bodies for Raptors, inner body stuff, internal bypass shocks.
Bypass shocks, yeah.
All the bypass shocks, the bodies will get drilled here to keep your stuff underneath.
Nice. Well, thank you. So you're attaching the shock at the top first.
Yeah, and then you can compress it from the bottom and get it in that bottom mount.
So you can kind of see where the bottom of the shock is to the axle. So that's kind of like almost the travel of it,
Yep,
basically.
that's the max droop travel we
Yeah.
have, and then you can see where we're going to move it to in the mount. That's where it's going to be at sag.
Like a glove.
That's right. It's like the day it was built, tight.
This shock has a dual stage stack in it. So what we did was lightened up that first stage. So the slow to mid speed impacts are less force into the shock.
You holding it?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we also,
Click, click.
on the second stage, we took the pivot shim and made it thicker, so the shims had more space to flex, which allows more oil to flow through. So on high speed impacts, it's also soft.
So Blake, we're gonna put this data acquisition system on Chargezilla. So how does it work?
So yeah, when we tune, we like to record data while we tune. Helps us make tuning decisions, like what directions we want to go. So at a bare minimum, we like to put a string pot on the front and the rear. So this measures the shock displacement, and then from that we can calculate shock velocities, so we can see what the shock is doing over certain events, and then use that information to make tuning decisions.
Okay, so you're putting it on top, near the top of the shock, and then where does the string attach to?
The string attaches to another hose clamp that we'll put down here on the eyelet, and then we'll zero it at full droop, so we know where full extension of the shock is.
Okay.
And then everything up will be positive.
And you said we're doing passenger side.
Yep, yeah. Typically when I tune, I'm in the passenger seat, so I like to do the passenger side, so I think it's just out of habit that I chose the passenger side. But yeah, like I said, I think the left and the right, in theory, should be doing the same thing. So shouldn't really matter.
So you're using your butt dyno and your computer dyno at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so here's the main brain, right? And you're gonna hook it up to 12 volt?
Yep, correct. So this is a Dewey soft data acquisition, and You can run it off a whole bunch of different power, but we usually, when we're tuning in a car, run it off a 12-volt battery. Works okay.
So yeah, this truck has a 12-volt battery, obviously. It has a 12-volt system, lights, stereo, windshield wipers, etc.
So yeah, we have two plots here. The top plot will be the front shock displacement. This green line is the shock displacement right now, so you can see where we're at sag. This is full compression up here and full droop down here. The orange line is our bumper engagement, so if that green line ever touches that orange line, that means we bottomed the shocks or hit the bumper. And then same thing down here, this is all the rear shock.
Okay, gotcha. So let's get moving and see how it does.
Sweet. Yeah, so you can see the green line starts to move as we
Start to exercise it.
yeah, as the shocks start moving.
There the line's moving. Yeah, the rear didn't step out.
Yeah, it's even smoother. Yeah, I think that low speed change definitely was a positive to the high speed. That, again, that event's not super aggressive to get into the high speed, but it did feel more balanced. I think.
Alright, dude, so this is the whole first recording?
Yeah, this was from the house to the lake.
Okay.
That first loop. So you can see the blue is where you were marking those events with the event button.
Okay.
And then the green is the shock displacement. So you can see this is a pretty big bump. So we can zoom in on this. This is that G out that's labeled. And you can see how much shock displacement we were using in the front and in the rear. So we weren't even close to bottoming on that event.
So it's also interesting that the front obviously sees it first.
Yep, yep.
And is this like a couple milliseconds or how much time?
Yeah, this is I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this is the time scale here. So yeah, that's probably a couple milliseconds going about 35 miles per hour in the truck.
And the rear, it seems like the secondary is a little bit like more.
Yeah, there's some oscillation there in the rear. And then we can look at how fast the speeds were going if we go to shock velocity. And then zoom in, you can see about 50 inches per second in the front and about 34 inches per second in the rear. And that's because the motion ratio in the front is a lot higher than in the rear. So you'll see higher shaft speeds typically in the front.
So that's what you were expecting?
Yeah, yep. And that's why that tune, when we changed the front, that's why we made the front softer, because we were expecting higher shaft speeds in the front.
Okay, so when you talk about shocks, you're mentioning low speed and high speed, you're talking about the movement of the shock,
Yeah,
not the vehicle itself.
Yeah, correct. That's a huge misconception. Most of the time talking about the shocks is when we're talking speed, we're talking shaft speed. So square edge bumps, like hitting a curb, typically create the highest shaft speeds, and then the lower oscillation stuff is the low speed that we're talking about. And those can both happen at various vehicle speeds.
As you saw it right there, once again, super impressive. The computer data showed very, very similar stuff that Blake was actually feeling when he drove the truck, and after he changed the shims and the valving in the shock, it just proved what we did actually helped. But now it's my turn to go up the trenches. I need to descend the rocky pile, go up the trenches, see how it articulates a little bit more. And show you how it works actually in the real world with the suspension and the rest. The logs on the way up were fun, but let me descend the rocky section so I can get into the trenches. And here, you know, as long as I can crawl, also what the electric powertrains have is they have regenerative braking. So technically, I could kind of slowly regen. I don't have hill descent control like a brand new Raptor, but hey, I can still descend a good hill. So now it's up to my turning radius. Let me see if I can flip a good UE here. Okay. All right, so I have descended the rocks. I'm making my turn. This truck doesn't have power steering at the moment. Well, it could be added later though. And here are the trenches. So I'm gonna try to see how these solid axles articulate, which should be quite good actually. Ooh, I have a lot of torque. Woo! Yeah! Okay, let me back up and let me do it again. Let me try to go down the trenches. The trenches is where some SUVs struggle. Nice, okay. Let me try one more time this way and see how it articulates. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Okie dokie. Yeah, this is what this truck was really meant to do, is be able to kind of exercise this way and try to stretch itself. Nice. Bam! Yes, so this truck can be your ranch truck. You can have a little bit of fun, especially once we get the transfer case low range hooked up. So we can actually, get some low range, slow speed crawling on this truck. I mean, it has a lot of suspension capability already, really great tires, lots of clearance. So it just needs a little bit more lower geared capability, and it's gonna be just super for play. But how does it do at work and at show and versus brand new vehicles? Well, that's all coming up. So stay tuned for that on the series we call Chargezilla. And of course, check out alltfl.com for everything automotive, and check out the link below for the links to Legacy EV, 101 Motors, Fox Shocks, all our partners who helped us build this truck. Well, here I am, guys. This episode of Chargezilla video series is called Work.
I think we'll take this with us. We'll put it right there. Back in the day, they made them like they're supposed to, right? With heavy duty real metal. This thing starts every time. Every time. And I haven't even flooded it yet. Running the camera.
We decided to put the truck on the scale here.
Yeah, but you're still standing on it.
Okay, let me get off of it.